The following video has been written and created without the use of AI. Please support your human content creators by liking the video and commenting something down below. Every comment you write, I will see. I personally check the comments every hour. Thank you. A strange phenomenon that occurred deep in the maintenance tunnels of the prison complex was the strange black air that prevented light from penetrating the darkness. No one knew exactly what caused this strange anomaly, but it was enough to keep many toys and even the doctor away. He would not risk losing an automaton for mere curiosity. And toys could lose their lives even if ferals rarely ventured down here. Usually by accident or punishment. The tunnels themselves lay beneath the oldest wing, built when the factory's ambition still burned white hot. Here, walls of smooth concrete curved gently inward, guiding anyone brave enough deeper into the dark. The floor tiles bore hairline cracks and dried blood splattered the walls like ancient warnings, yet everything remained oddly pristine. The bolts in the wall panels still gleamed, pipes overhead ran polished and true, and there was no dust. Well, perhaps a little bit. No drifting paper or rust-flecked metal. It was as if time itself hesitated to settle in these halls. The air was wrong here, heavy, damp, pressing against skin and cloth alike. Every breath tasted faintly metallic, laced with something that might have been oil or might have been something stranger. No light could truly pierce the fog more than a few strides ahead. Flashlights choked to a dull smear, their beams swallowed as though the air itself drank them down. Shapes emerged from an instant at the edges of shallow circles of light, angles that didn't belong, corners where there shouldn't be none, before dissolving back into perfect nothingness. Sound didn't fare much better. Footsteps felt dull and lifeless. The echo devoured almost before it began. Far above, the groan and hiss of ancient ventilation shafts seemed distant, as though heard through a wall of water. Now and then a faint metallic drip echoed along the corridor, impossible to place, always just a few steps further than where anyone stood. Metal floor grates stretched out, lined in immaculate rows, without a spot of rust, as though tended by unseen hands. Cracked but unbroken wall panels bore serial numbers and hazard warnings, stenciled in paint that hadn't faded yet. Pipes curled along the ceiling in looping, intricate patterns, perfectly intact despite the emptiness. A testament of the factory's forgotten obsession with order. In the silence, the air itself seemed alive. It pressed close, breathed slow, and carried a promise of something unseen from within. It was a place of impossible contradiction, clean but dead, orderly yet lawless, abandoned, but breathing with life. And beyond the thin circle of light, the black fog waited, still and thick as tar, patient as stone, as though guarding something that didn't want to be found. It was at the precipice of this deeper hell that Doey the Doughman now stood. He wasn't being punished by Safe Haven, of course. All he knew was, when a toy entered the fog, it definitely never came back. But he was curious, too curious. For all he knew, this was just a large arena for ferals to fight it out with low visibility. Why was he doing this again? He reached into his gut, pulling out a paper that by now was oily from his residue. There was a note written to him by one of the toys in Safe Haven. Well, not really for him, but it hung on the suggestion board. The toy had theorized that there was a high likelihood of food down here, as it hadn't been picked clean yet. Doey sighed. This letter had been hanging on the suggestion board for months. Heck, he knew the toy who wrote it. They went feral 3 days ago, from the hunger. In a way, this was a way of self-punishing himself. All 3 people inside his body, Matthew, Kevin, Jack, felt bad, as if it was their fault the little critter went crazy. Doey sighed again, stepping down into the gaping abyss. The moment Doey's leg entered the stillness, a pair of eyes was immediately on him. 2 black dots that were practically invisible in the fog. They clung to him. You watched the newcomer enter. Your stomach gurgled so quiet the sound didn't penetrate the fog. A pain that made you reel and breathe with strained creaks in your shattered plastic shell. You used to be a simple toy, a good toy. No, really, your product line was called Good Girl. A line of toys that was a direct competitor to Barbie, with the gimmick that, while Barbie told girls crazy crap like you can be an astronaut, as if every person on Earth was fit to be that, the Good Girl toy line was more realistic, including jobs like Good Girl Judge, Good Girl Doctor, Good Girl Veterinarian, and of course the much-beloved Good Girl Sewer Worker. However, in the deep stillness of the maintenance tunnels, your pristine, dull body had become corrupted. To adjust to the darkness. A mutation caused by the black gas, mixing with remnants of the poppy gas that was still produced by the prototype deep, deep below the factory. You could feel Doey walk through your domain by feeling the thick fog shift around him. Silently, you perched atop a storage crate tower. Your clawed fingers digging into the wood with anticipation. You could make out his outline. His breath hot and heavy. Doey's body was interesting. Even through the fog you could see it wobble. It was malleable, probably just as tasty as it looked. You weren't quick at rationalizing anymore. Being stuck down here for a decade does that to someone. This place had almost complete sensory deprivation. No one stayed sane long down here. But Doey, well, he was smiling. He could see a little more than others, as his sensory organs functioned differently due to his dull body. It was a mix of enhanced vision and the fact that naturally his body was more sensitive to any changes in the dense fog. In other words, while you needed to mutate, needing to adapt, he naturally fit into this place quite well. And yet, he didn't notice you. Your adaptation being just too good. This place is amazing, mumbled Doey. So clean. Well, maybe a bit dusty. You lowered yourself from the crates. On all fours, you crawled forward, your pitter-patter fully swallowed by the fog, slow and wet, fingers peeling off of the concrete floor with every movement, leaving behind a bloody handprint. Doey leaned towards the ground, inspecting what seemed to be the eviscerated body of a smiling critter. It was unrecognizable, just synthetic cotton skin and a little bit of blood. The brutality surprised even him. Ferals at least left bone and some meat. But as he pulled at the skin, every bone was mercilessly crushed or gnawed on. There was not a single sinewy bit of flesh left. Even the bone marrow was suckled out, like whatever ate the poor thing couldn't control itself. Suddenly, he became hyper-aware of his surroundings. And that's when he noticed it. Movement in the fog, the way it was swirling. Doey's eye holes narrowed. He counted. 3, 2. He was getting ready. 1. He shot out his arm like a grappling hook, straight into the black wall of the fog. Assuming he would touch something. And touch, he did. It was soft and warm, a little moist perhaps. You shuddered at the touch. He grazed your back just slightly. You jolted to the side, and then galloped forward in a mad rush. The pitter-patter quickly coming closer, even penetrating the fog. Doey could hear you. Doey could tell where you were. Pouncing. You were now in the air, no more turning back. He watched your horrifying visage emerge from his limited cone of vision. What used to be a 6'5" tall doll with long pink hair and a cheery smile was now a mutated predator. Upper half of your doll face was still intact, giving it a grotesquely cheery appearance for what was just below it. A horrifically elongated, snapping jaw with sharp teeth and red sinewy skin that was glistening with a thin layer of ooze and blood. A body that outgrew its own plastic shell, elongated thin arms that had burst out of the little doll hands, needing elongated clawed fingers, the torn remains of the arm skin flapping about like torn sleeves. The entire middle section of your doll body was destroyed, revealing an almost skinned and emaciated body, paper-thin skin showing off the muscles and blood vessels beneath. With skin so sensitive, the moist air from the fog was necessary to not dry it out. Before your body slammed into him, all Doey could think of was, how are you still alive? You crashed into his with a wet slap. Your claws scraped at his doughy surface, sinking in deep, pulling chunks away like tearing fresh bread. You didn't feel the pain of your own cracked fingers, only the burn of hunger and hate, the raw heat that pools behind your eyes. Doey staggered, grunting, the colors of his body twisting as the three minds inside screamed in alarm. You clawed at his chest again, feeling it mold and tear under your grasp. Your jaw unhinged in a grotesque snarl, a snarl that splattered thin red drool over his face. Doey's massive arm swung around, catching you by the ribs, and with a grunt, he hurled you sideways. Your brittle form crashed against the pipe, plastic cracking, skin tearing, but you barely felt it. Pain was a familiar companion here, buried beneath your years of dark, damp isolation. You lunged again, teeth bared, sinking your jaw into the red section of his body. The taste was strange, salty and chemical, nothing like flesh, but there was a hint of sweetness. But the act itself made your body tremble with a rush of satisfaction. Doey, meanwhile, roared, his form rippling like stirred clay, his other arm pounding your side hard enough to rattle what bones still held you upright. The fog swallowed your limbs as you scrambled and tore, the blackness twisting around both of you, hiding the violence from any eye but your own. He grabbed your neck, doughy fingers tightening like a tentacle. Your claws dug into his wrists, puncturing them, leaving ragged holes that immediately squished shut. Your jaw snapped again, this time biting at his cheek, tearing away a strip of blue dough that fell to the tiles with a dull slap. Doey's breath came hot and ragged. The three voices in his head, cursing, pleading, fighting over what to do. You shrieked, a raw, animal sound that had nothing left of the sweet voice you produced when you were still human. It echoed dead and flat, swallowed by the black fog as though the air itself disapproved of the sound itself. Doey pushed forward, trying to crush you against the tunnel wall, but your clawed feet found purchase, bracing against the tiles slick with blood. Your own this time. Thin trickles sliding down the torn muscles of your torso. Your face was a mask of cracked plastic, dull eyes, still glossy and bright above the twitching horror of your exposed lower jaw. And he felt it now. Not just a threat, but something else. An answering heat of sorts, a pulse of adrenaline that came not from fear, but something darker. You broke free, both of you stumbling back into the swirling fog. Your breathing rasped loud in your ears, your throat hitching on broken plastic. Doey stared at you, his body heaving, wounds closing even as new ones opened under the slow drip of your claws. Neither of you spoke. Speech had no place here. Just breathing, heat, blood, and the crushing fog pressing in from all sides. And behind that violence something else coiled tight, waiting to snap. Doey lunged fist first. A rolling mass of color and anger. His arm stretched, dough twisting and lengthening, slamming into your side and wrapping around you like a living rope. Your claws scrambled at the slick tiles, screeching as you tried to tear free, but he yanked hard, dragging you back through the fog with bruising force. Your feet barely scraped the ground before you slammed into him chest first. You felt something crack inside your torso, splintering plastic and grinding bone. A hot wetness spilled down your front, but it only fueled the savage grin twisting what was left of your pretty dull mouth. He squeezed tighter, the dough of his body flowing and reshaping, pinning your arms for a heartbeat. You flexed, muscles rippling under your ruined skin, and shredded through the hold with a tearing sound like wet cloth ripping. Your claws flashed out, raking across his midsection, sending strips of red, blue, and yellow dough spinning through the air. He staggered, the three minds inside roaring different curses, breaths hitching with pain and dark thrill. It was Kevin who enjoyed it the most. Your jaw snapped open wide, biting down on his shoulder where the colors marbled together, your teeth sinking deep into pliant flesh. It gave way under your bite, and you felt the shudder run through him. Not just pain, it was hotter and deeper. Doey growled, his fingers digging into your spine, pressing painfully against the exposed cords of muscle. Then, in a flash of brute strength, he slammed you down. The metal floor shuddered under the impact, the fog swirling around you in lazy spirals. For a moment, the world went dark around your vision. It flashed like static behind cracked eyes, and you hissed, coughing up speed and blood, but your claws never stopped moving. One hand gripping the floor, the other swung up, gouging his ribs, at least where you thought his ribs would be. It left deep furrows that squelched and almost immediately closed. He loomed above, breath steaming in the cold air, eyes narrowed, jaw clenched. The swirling fog hugged every curve of his body, each ragged breath pulling it tighter around him. He looked down at you, and you glared back, chest heaving, lips peeled back in something that was half snarl, half laugh. The air between you sparked with something raw and terrible. Not quite hatred. Something other than that. Need, perhaps. Your heart pounded so hard it felt like it would tear through your ruined chest. Your claws twitched, aching to strike again, but instead you grabbed his wrist, holding it there, feeling the strange heat of living dough under your shredded palm. He froze. For a heartbeat, neither of you moved. The only sound, your ragged panting breaths and the distant drip of condensation from rustless pipes. Then you pulled him down, your cracked lips crashing against his doughy face, sharp teeth scraping but not quite breaking skin. If he had any, that is. It was a kiss twisted with blood and feral rage, as though all that violence had burned itself into something filled with desire instead. Your claws dug into his shoulders, drawing thin lines of blood, while his arms curled around your waist, squeezing tight enough to bruise plastic and flesh alike. The fog wrapped around you both, swallowing everything beyond this bruised, breathless tangle of limbs and teeth. For the first time in years, your hunger began to ease, but it wasn't gone. But dulled by the heat rising through your body, by the harsh scrape of his rough dough against your raw skin. Your claws raked up his back, sharp tips carving shallow trenches in dough that healed and split again with every motion. He answered by crushing you closer, his pliant form folding around your hips, your chest, pinning your ruined frame so tight you could barely draw breath. And still it wasn't enough. Your faces crashed together, cracked lips splitting wider, teeth gnawing. It could be called a kiss, but it was more biting, more tearing, something hot and feral that tasted of salt, ichor, and old hate turned need. You felt the soft give off his dough under your teeth, felt him seize your shoulders so roughly the cracked porcelain groaned in protest. Your breath ripped from you in a ragged snarl, swallowed by his own bruised gasp. Neither of you paused, not for pain, not for air. His fingers dug deeper, sinking into raw, half-healed flesh, making your broken shell grind against your chest. The heat blooming there felt more alive than anything you had in years. Sharp and sick and sweet. You bit again, jaw aching, the taste of him coating your tongue. He growled low, a sound that vibrated through the dough and into your bones. The fog pressed around you both, heavy and damp, catching each ragged breath, each wet scrape of tooth against soft. Your claws curled around his neck, not gentle, but squeezing until you felt the dough strain and tear under your grip. His mouth opened wider, not kissing so much as devouring. Sharp teeth grazing your chin, jaw, throat, until your head fell back with a broken, breathless laugh. The fog swallowed the sound entirely. And for a heartbeat, all that existed was the shared heat, the tearing, scraping, and penetrating, the burn of two tight grips, and exploration. It wasn't love, not really. It was hunger giving shape, violence reshaped into something that felt perilous, close to tenderness. But tenderness had teeth here and claws and ragged, breathless need. Your hips jerked closer, driven by a need that had nothing to do with gentleness. His dough yielded, then tightened around you, his hands moving down your sides to crush you closer still. It could be called an embrace, but it felt like he was trying to pull you inside him, to claim every ruined inch of you. And you welcomed it. Your claws sinking deeper, your teeth leaving shallow, oozing grooves across the shoulder and throat. The pain sparked fresh heat under your broken chest, sharp and alive. Your breaths came in ragged, heat snarls, ease gaps, hotter than the last. The taste of him, the dough. There was a faint sweetness. It filled your mouth until it felt like you were drowning in it. Your hearts thundered out in sync, each beat pushing you closer to something sharp and desperate. A conclusion of sorts, wet, deep, and hot. Your hearts thundered out. The kiss, if it could be called that, deepened, broke, and reformed again and again, each time rougher, wetter, and hungrier, and still neither of you let go. You pulled at him. He pressed closer, breath mingling hot damp in the choking fog. Every scrape of tooth, every press of claw, every movement. Sound from both of you, half pain, half prayer, all need. In that fevered, savage embrace, the hunger didn't fade, but for the first time, it felt shared. It felt thirsty. It was raw, ruined, and still alive, clawing at the silence together. As you felt him deeply enter you. Hey, you reached the end of the video! That makes you part of an exclusive club. Our secret club password for this month is Rusty Spoons. Put the secret message in your comment below to tell fellow members that you watched the video until the very end. Lastly, before we say goodbye, I want to take the opportunity and thank my channel members. And if you want me to say something silly here, just have a funny account name and join my darling Steward tier. We have Meow Meow Person, Puppet Noah, ADHD Neptune, Mimi Mumu, Adrijama, Jaws, Melofia, Maxicat, Allison Watkins, Mystic Jade 111, Giovanna Moretti, Twilight Mia, Angry Boxman, and Anonymous Weep. Thank you for being dying stewards, and of course, a big thank you to all the other channel members. I cannot do this without you. Bye!